Well, folks, here we are in December. Can you believe it? Well, it was another busy month with FYI and their product updates. We have some new features on our hands, such as enhancements to the FYI desktop app. We've got new user defaults for XPM sites and custom relative date filters, which are now available in lists and views, just to name some. So in this video, we're going to break down what each of the changes mean for you and the key takeaways for your practice. Hello and welcome. I'm Nick from Puzzle. We're a software implementation, training and consultancy company for accounting practices and professional service organisations. We're based in Auckland, New Zealand, and helping solve our customers' workflow and process challenges is what we do. For this update, we'll cover FYI product releases and enhancements made during November 2023. Let's have a look. Okay. So when you're in the Help Center, we're going to go down the bottom here to What's New and go into our November release notes. Now, working from earliest releases to most recent, we're going to go to the bottom. And so the first one up here with enhancements is changes made to a cabinet. Now you're going to see these in the actual cabinet activity. For example, if you go over through to here into your cabinet settings, if you make any changes to the categories over here, in the little activity drawer, you will notice these now surfacing up. If I change this from required to optional, and then go back again another time, you're going to see that this now shows. So why did our categories disappear? Who turned off keywords? When did those category options change? These questions are now answered with the cabinet activity that gets displayed. The next update we had there was in regards to the FYI desktop app. So if you ever have any delays with synchronizing documents between your desktop and FYI, or if you just need to upgrade the actual FYI desktop app to a new version, you now have a new Restart Now button available. If we follow through the link here, you'll see that there's the green paper plane icon in your Windows taskbar. You might be familiar with that. You can right click and restart that anytime. And if you ever need to do updates, you'll see a little upwards arrow pointing above the icon. And when you go in, you'll see a Restart Now button. So this is going to make sure that all of your documents between the desktop and the FYI Cloud Data Store stay in sync as easy as possible. When adding or removing a client from the client group in XPM or FYI, you now see the changes in the Client Activity tab. If we follow through this link here, you might be used to seeing some of the other client activity changes that get threaded inside there. So if you want to learn a little bit more, go and have a look at that page. But here in the demo, we can see that now we've got removed from group. So anytime you're going in and updating that, whenever there is a group association, that will actually come across and display itself in the activity thread. Remember that FYI Client Activity tab is a great audit log of when and how client details were changed. As practice systems like XPM don't have an audit report that you can run, this is a great reference for sites. If you want to see what details are included here, have a look at the page which we just went through and you can see a little bit more information on that one. The next update is in regard to XPM jobs and custom fields. Completed jobs will now synchronize custom fields for up to 48 hours from the last time the job details were updated. You can see that through the overnight sync, the standard job details will update and then the custom fields will also update. This is now just saying that the completed jobs will also pass through custom field updates where it's changed in the last 48 hours. So this allows for both updates to be passed through the systems and making sure that we've got consistency there. Alright, first up for the week 9th of November, automation admin changes. Might be a bit emboldened to use the phrase exciting for this one, but essentially you can now right click to open automation processes in new browser tabs. Pretty handy. Of course you can still copy automations if you like one and you want to vary it. This used to be called clone. And you might notice that the delete option has now disappeared. If we head into the app, simply right click to open anything in a new browser tab. Pretty easy. And that would also work if you are in the list mode. If we go into the list mode, you've also got right click open a new tab. If you ever need to archive, Simply when you go into an automation process, you are going to see that the little down arrow allows you to archive. Alright, multi-tabbing. It's a pretty essential part of any browser app, so I give this 1 point for allowing right click to open in a new tab, but you can't control mouse click or control scroll wheel click, so -1 point for just not allowing multi-tabbing like other browsers. Anyhow, as for the delete option, it would be nice to see this come back, to be honest, especially for doing test automations. You don't really want to clutter up your archive with lots and lots of automations, so that would be brilliant if we did have some ability to delete and purge automations that we just don't need. And with that, let's have a look at the next one. Next up is around importing file notes. So some practices might be aware of the process around bringing data into FYI or updating data through the practice sync and the OneDrive admin account. But if we have a look at this, it's just now saying that you can actually use an export code, for example an XPM, to match those file notes to the right clients when you bring them in. Otherwise, beforehand you just had to use client codes. Now, for Australian XPM sites, that tends to be more of a common scenario, but certainly for NZ sites, the export code would be the most likely matching ID that you would want. So really, this is applicable to any practices who either are starting out on FYI and want to bring their file notes in from their previous database, or if you just simply need to bring in historical file notes if you're already live, you can now go through and do that. If you want to learn a little bit more about that or other file types, follow through this link here, and this one has information on all sorts of updates that you can do, and this is the one in particular around the file notes. Next up, we have document and task names, which are now mandatory upon creation. The templates, if you use them, help pre-fill this, but you can override it if you need. It just can't be left blank. If we have a look inside the app here, for example creating a new Word document, you can see the template name has defaulted down into the document name. This is really handy. The same for tasks. If you're not using templates, that's where you just need to make sure you've got a good title in that item. A general tip I get from practices often is that getting your whole team to use easy to find item names, whether it's docs or tasks, will go a long way when coming to search for those later on. Templates take it one step further and ensure that there's consistency around your common items. And last, for the week of the 9th November, client name placement now sticks at the top of any new task that you're doing. If we have a look inside the app here and we go to create a new task, you can see at the top right, you've now got the client field. It is glaringly obvious. I can't recall even where it was before, but I'm assuming somewhere else a bit further down the page. Anyhow, we'll leave that at that and on to the next one. Okay, first up for the week 16th of November, we have got CSV file types in FYI that can now be passed via the FYI desktop app. Changes and edits can be applied and then those can be saved. You just need to mark the file as finished for editing and that will sync back into the FYI data store. If we have a look over through here, you've just got to make sure that as a user you've got the desktop app turned on with the Outlook and Office files going to desktop. Then of course you check it out, that goes in, and then when you're ready to process the changes, just click Finish Editing, or inside the desktop app you can click Finish Editing as well, and that's all you need to do. So this will save certainly a little bit of time working offline with CSV files. So with this next one, it's in regards to practice activity, and if you've gone through the process of moving to the new Collaborate feature, brilliant. But for other sites, when you are going through this, you need to actually have the old file shares for anything removed before. So therefore, what you can do now in the practice activity area is retry any of those file deletions or share setup deletions. It just means that you can try and speed up the process of getting those things cleared out and moving to the new Collaborate. Okay, we're making progress. We're up to the 23rd of November and amazing, you can now update your lists and views by a relative custom date filter with plus or minus days, months or weeks. In addition, you've also got an exactly or between filter options available to utilize on top of these. So if we have a look through the link there and at the image, you can see, for example, -2 days between. So here we are, if today is, for example, the 8th of December and we have -2 days, the between value will try to filter anything from the 6th to the 8th. So that's how that works, and the exact reference just means it has to hit exactly that -2 days ago on the 6th. So that's really cool. You can learn a little bit more if you go through the sorting and filtering lists link through there. Here's a bit of information. Inside your views, for example, if I went through to the jobs board and I want to look at due date, relative, and then I go custom, this is where we can say minus, say, 10 days exactly, or if we choose, sorry, down here, between, it's looking anything between 10 days ago and now. So it's another big win for FYI. Imagine jobs overdue by X days or within a certain range, documents older than X months or within a certain range, maybe clients created within a certain range. So it's definitely opened up a lot more possibilities, and just to think of the automations that can come out the other end of that, that will only extend the value for this one. Next, for FYI administrators, you can now choose if staff automatically get made active or not once syncing from XPM. So you can follow through the link here for more details, but inside FYI, under the practice and general settings, you can now see new users. So default active is what we've always had, but now you can actually change staff to inactive. That means rather than having team members from XPM automatically get added into your FYI active staff list and also adding on to your billing plans, the admins can now specify when they actually get made active instead. My own perspective on this is that practices need to trigger an FYI invite by email anyway, so perhaps just having the inactive setting in place for new users is another layer of protection and just helps mitigate any accidental pricing changes on your bill. We all know that some practices invite different types of team members into XPM. You may not necessarily want those to tack themselves on to FYI every time. Anyhow, moving on. We saw that in previous release notes you can open up automation processes in new browser tabs, so we're going to skip this part. This next one is about tasks, and when you go to create them, the task drawer will remain open. So in FYI, the app here, we're creating a task, and you can see when I fill in the details and go to create it, it remains open and doesn't close anymore. So that's great. This is a nice one. Clickable URLs are now available in text-based custom fields. So if you have a look here, URLs need to be in a supported format, but when they are put into a custom text field, you can now click straight through them in FYI. In FYI, here we are in the custom field settings. You can see we've got a text type, and then simply, if that's in a list mode or just accessing it via the client workspace, you can now click and open. The last one for that week, a bit self-explanatory here, but the bulk update screen has now got a resolved date format. When you are in, for example, a client bulk update across a list and you go to pick a date, and it now shows in day, month, and year. So this has just been done to match the consistency across the product. Now, I won't go through resolutions or bug fixes every single release cycle, but where material, I will do my best to flag them up for you. In this particular week, there's a couple of call-outs worth mentioning. The Practice Manager reset now flags up in the FYI practice activity. Let's go and have a look. So if we're in practice activity here, if you're a user that's got that permission, then you can spot who reset it and when it was done. The next call out would be around the CSV files. So we went through in a previous release note on how you can edit CSVs via the desktop app. Well, now you actually will get a pop-up box that forces you to go into your OneDrive account to then open that file. So it just won't open in Excel straight away. An example, if I click in and I go to edit a file that's a CSV, you can now see it's pointing you to your OneDrive, and you'll see it sitting in your OneDrive, My Edits, available to be taken out and updated. Of course, when you finish those changes, they'll process back. And this is just the online OneDrive preview, but of course you'll have your desktop OneDrive app that you can navigate to as well. And nothing material for XPM sites for the week 28th of November. Well, that wraps up all of the November releases. wishing you all a productive month ahead, and if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, comment or share if you feel others might benefit from seeing this as well. For documentation on these updates, refer to the video details, and we'll see you in the next video.